Thanks, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here on this glorious day outside. I hope you have a chance to go out there and take some fresh air, take a walk, and enjoy the season upon us. My name is Alan Rosales. I am the Director of Professional Learning and Development for a center in Chicago called Carol Robertson Center. And this is our part two on resilience-based literacy. And so I wanted to share with you, hopefully all of you were here last time. Let me see, I see a lot of, I recognize a lot of you from last time, so that's good. I had shared this framework with you before that's called storytizing. This is something that I created many years ago to help teachers in their process of providing instructional read-alouds to young children. And so I'm just going to do a quick recap for all of you on these three components, and then we will jump into the inquiry based component that was meant for part two. So as you recall, for storytizing, there were three domain elements that I shared with all of you in part one. The first one is character development. Let me see if I could annotate. Yeah, there it is. So this part here, character development. And so when we read to clear this out, there we go. So when we read to children, many times teachers may often focus on this sequence of events because in their assessment systems, sometimes it says, can a child retell a story or retell what happened in the story? And so the teachers will ask the children, so what happened in the story? What happened first, second, third? And then they check off the assessment or the objective component. And then they move on. But in reality, we should be able to read a book for a long time. You know, any really good storybook could last you a couple weeks or 2 weeks. And you read it, you read the whole book the first time, but then afterwards you want to chunk it, right? And so chunking just means you want to read parts of the book so that you can intentionally delve into some deep topics throughout the book. And so with this storytelling framework, it could be that one day you just focus on the character's personality, whether it's Goldilocks and Three Bears, or if it's Rainbow Fish, or any of those classic books. You might provide a lot of inquiry that's based off of a person's character's personality or their emotions and feelings, right? Or what they look like, or the types of ideas that Rainbow Fish had, or Goldilocks had, or the Three Billy Goats Gruff. And those can go on for some days, right? And what happens when you do that, you connect children's heart to the characters. And that's really important, a really important piece for children to be able to read for understanding, is if they're able to connect the heart to the characters, right? Because that way they're going to have sympathy, empathy, even compassion for what the characters, what's happening to the character throughout the book. And they'll have more detail to be able to explain to the teacher and their colleagues and other children on things that occur in the book. So that's that one step. The second one is setting development. And so how well are we taking the time in each one of the books that we read to talk about the environment, right? The environment in the Goldilocks forest where the three bears are, or the bridge where the three little Billy Goats Gruff are, or the sea, right, where Rainbow Fish is, or any story. There's always a setting that's provided. And so you might have conversations about the location, the place, whether there's living or non-living things there, whether there's animals, trees, other people, right? And we can have another conversation about that. Some stories also will have climate and atmosphere. There might be some tension between, um, the young Billy Goat Gruff and the troll that's under the bridge, right? There's some tension there. There's some fear. There's some stress, or there might be some gloomy or cheerful types of settings. And we need to just relax and pause and give children the opportunity to see, hey, this is another way to see the setting of a storybook. Also included with the setting is time. And because we're dealing with young children, we can talk about the past, future. For them, it's really like the morning, the afternoon, tomorrow, maybe this weekend, right? Instead of months and years. But it all depends on the age group that you have, and also holiday seasons. And so we can take time to read any book and focus on questions that have to do with the environment, the atmosphere, and time. So what does that do? That helps children place themselves in that setting. So they're able to see the setting. And when children are able to see the setting with a lot of detail, they're able to see themselves in the three bears home, in the sea with rainbow fish, or in the forest with Goldilocks, or any other book. They're able to see themselves in that setting. And so that's really important for reading to understand. And then the third one is about plot. Like I said, a lot of teachers focus on sequence of events, a lot because it's part of a that I've noticed over the years. It's just part of an assessment tool that asks teachers, can the children retell the story? However, there's other parts to the plot as well. Like if you can focus and study the cause and effect throughout the storybook, not just the ending, but in the beginning there's a cause and effect, in the middle, and the end of the book. And what really builds critical thinking is problem solving. There's always conflicts in any storybook. That's why it's a storybook. And so taking the time to help children engage with you on the problems that occurred throughout the storybook, the kind of solutions that were found in the storybook, the kind of solutions that they can come up with or the group can come up with. And so when you take your time to ask questions about sequence of events, cause and effect, problem and solution over time, that builds the brain, critical thinking. And so when you think about it, you can have one book and for 2 weeks, you can literally focus on personality one day, ideas and concepts another, environment another, um, cause and effect another, and then problem and solution. It's an art form, and you're free to do whatever you want, right? You can choose however you want the flow to go through, how you want the process to flow. I think the important part, though, when we want children to read for understanding, we want them to connect the heart to the characters in the storybook. We want them to be able to see themselves in the setting of the storybook, and we want them to think critically about the topics of the book. These are three elements that really good readers in primary grades have. They're able to connect, they're able to see, and they're able to think about the book. And that's what helps children read for understanding. So I'm going to open it up real quick before I move on to the inquiry piece. This was a little bit of a recap, but I just want to make sure if there are any questions or comments regarding this framework. And I always tell people, be creative. Take this, create something new or create something of your own. That's good too. So I'll open it up. So if some of you could unmute and just share, or maybe you were able to use this last time from the last time we met. can share how it went. All right. Oh, hold on. I have to check out the chat. Sorry. Let's see. Hey, Karen, I'm not able to scroll through the chat. So in case you see something, just let me know.
Will do.
I don't know why it froze up on me like that. Okay, so I'm going to move this over. 1 second, and then move on to. All right. So here we go. Okay, so all of you should have received this document here. This is a really cool tool that I've used with my teachers for the past almost 20 years. And it's a really cool tool that I use to help teachers develop their inquiry skills. And so what happens with this tool is we videotape teachers reading to children for 10 minutes. We've also done it for block play and drawing. So it could be for anything. But we record a 10-minute lesson with children. In this case, it's a read aloud. And then for each row, as we watch the video, we transcribe all the questions that the teacher asked during those 10 minutes. And so each row would represent each one of the questions that the teacher asked. And so for this tool, there's 4 questioning approaches that I like to share with teachers. So there's what's called a questioning approach, questioning content, questioning type, and questioning style. And all of these are important just to understand. So when you're asking questions, you know the types of questions that you're asking. So the first one is the approach. And this one demonstrates how you as an educator begin to engage children in the thinking process. And so when we ask questions to children, there's 3 ways that we can approach it. Oh, wait, go back. There we go. The first one is asking teacher-directed questions. And so teacher-directed questions would be like, I see Michelle. I see Michelle Allen on the screen there. And then I say, hey, Michelle, what color sweatshirt are you wearing? I don't know if it's a sweatshirt. I can't see it too well. If it's a shirt. And then Michelle, what would you say? What color? What color are you using or wearing?
Well,
I think it's gray.
yeah,
Is it gray?
yeah.
Oh, perfect,
Sorry.
perfect. And so just like the kids, right? Like we'll ask some questions. And if they're teacher-directed questions, they're really simple questions. All the cognitive activity was on my side. Like I had to think of a question and then share with Michelle. But it's memory-based. And so in this case, Michelle she didn't really have to think that much. It's really simple. Like I know the color gray. I know that's what I'm wearing. So it's just memory-based. So it's very simple. Then the second approach is a teacher guided. And this is where the teacher and I'm talking about cognitive activity, because that's really what we want in a strong inquiry-based learning setting, is we want how powerful is the cognitive activity with the children, you know? Like we want them to think, we want them to be critical thinkers, creative and critical thinkers. And so when we ask a teacher-guided question, it's shared, right? Like the cognitive activity is on the teacher side and also on the child side. It's semi-challenging, and it's those questions where we try to scaffold children's thinking and reasoning. And then you have child-centered questions. Child-centered questions means that the cognitive activity, and when I mean cognitive activity, I mean that when you ask a problem-posing question, you have to use multiple thinking processes to make sense of it. So you're literally shooting a lot of neurons. They're just exploding all over the place, from left to right brain, all over, to make sense of something and to problem solve. As opposed to when it's just memory based, you just remember something and that's it. It's like a quick remembering something. But when it's problem posing or reasoning that requires more critical thinking, the cognitive activity is mostly on the children. And so let me go back to, when we think about this tool and we transcribe teachers' questions, in the row 1 underneath inquiry approach, we will write down whether the first question was a teacher-directed question, teacher-guided question, or a child-centered question. And so when I've done research with this, for example, one time I did this with 60 teachers. Give me 1 second, please. I did this with 60 teachers. And so we recorded them twice, at the beginning of the professional learning community, and then 6 months later, after they learned about inquiry development. And so in the beginning, some teachers would ask 30, 40, 60, even 60 questions in 10 minutes, which is a lot, right? It's a lot of questions. And they thought, you know what? I asked 60 questions. I'm awesome. I'm fabulous. The kids learned a lot from me. And yes, of course, they always learn certain things when we're asking questions. But when we looked at the patterns, because every time, once we start filling out the patterns, here, let me share this tool with you so I can write into it. So once we fill out the patterns, we start to see, yeah, you asked 60 questions, but they were all teacher-directed questions. And that means that they were all memory-based questions. And so in reality, they weren't really learning. They were just, you were requiring them to recall or retell something that they already knew. And so that's what the questioning approach means. The second part, questioning content, talks about is in this context, if it's a resilience-based question. And so here, let me annotate real quick. So here, these 7 factors here are the 7 factors of resilience-based learning that we talked about in part 1. In order to help children build resiliency, or just resilience, there's 7 factors that help them do that. Friendship, emotions, problem solving, motivation, self-efficacy, faith, and hope. And we talked about that last time, how important it is to develop these intentionally in the classroom, even with family members, because sometimes children and families can be resilient, but not necessarily strategically. They just have to push on through hardships in a very stressful way. But when we understand that there's some factors that can help in the process, not necessarily that it will solve the problems, but help in the process, it helps you find an equilibrium, which is the point of resilience-based learning, is finding equilibrium, not necessarily always overcoming, because sometimes we can't overcome certain obstacles, but finding equilibrium and finding ways to move forward strategically. And so the point here is, are the questions that we're asking children during read alouds, are they based off of any of these 7 factors? And I always talk about Goldilocks and the 3 bears. And if I were to ask a child, so how many bears were there? And they say 3. Well, that's good, right? That's a math question, a simple math question, but it has nothing to do with any of these factors. But if I were to ask a child, so how would you solve the problem? How would you solve the fact that people are just walking into the bear's home, right? And some might say, a door lock, a camera, call the police, right? And now you're getting them to think about solving problems. And then you can also ask questions about motivation, faith and hope, and emotions. Self-regulation is one of those resilience-based factors, and so forth. One second here. Oh, there we go. Okay. And then we move to, let's see, 1 second. Oh, this is the type, yep. So this is the one that teachers are most likely to have knowledge of, because we always talk about use open-ended questions, right? And so closed-ended questions, there's two things that closed-ended questions. One is it could be a simple response, like a one-word response of yes or no, or it could be a full sentence. But if the child already knows the answer, for example, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, if we ask, so what did Goldilocks eat? And someone says, oh, Goldilocks ate porridge, right? That's a question, that's a full sentence, but it's just a recall question. It just reaffirms or clarifies something. So they didn't have to really think about it. And so that's still a closed-ended question if it's something that they already know. Open-ended questions, however, are more challenging. And the important thing is that it generates ideas and promotes reasoning. And so when you ask open-ended questions, such as how would you, like I said before, how would you secure your home from burglars, such as Goldilocks, who was a trespasser, right? She just trespassed and walked into the bear's home. Here's some examples. Closing the questions. Did you like the story? Yes. What did the character do to the chair? Broke the chair. What did the bear say when they saw the bowl? Somebody ate my porridge, right? And so those are things that are just recall questions, so they're closed-ended. The minute you ask certain kind of how and why questions, now it's more open-ended. So why do you think Goldilocks went into the bear's home? That's something we don't know because the book doesn't state it. So we have to reason that out. How would you have helped the bears become happy? That's another open-ended question because the answer is not given in the book. So we have to come up with that. And then what ideas could you tell the bears to keep their home safe? And what can people do to keep their neighborhoods safe, right? So all of those are open-ended questions. And it's going to help children generate ideas and reason things out. The fourth one is my favorite. Yeah, this is my favorite. This one's literature inquiry style. So this is the way we engage children in higher order thinking. This is really important. So you have certain types of questions. When I read the list here from top to bottom, the ones on the top are the lower level thinking processes. And as you go down, it becomes more difficult for children to think. So the cognitive activity and is the bottom ones. And it just becomes more cognitively demanding. And so at the top, it says attention focusing. And that's just having children ask questions to have children focus on specifics of the book. Like, do you see Goldilocks? Or conjecture, prediction, that's an easy one, but it's a little bit, I'm sorry, recall is the next one. So what happened in the book? Remembering the certain events. So that's recall, a lot of memory based. So it's not I wouldn't say it's cognitively demanding. It's still important, right? That children can recall certain things. Conjecture for math, prediction for literacy. That's just conjecturing or guessing what's coming up next. A little bit more cognitively demanding there. Comparison, now you're comparing, the three bears with the three Billy Goats Gruff from two different books or from another book, and you're doing comparisons. Now that that's more demanding, right? Cognitively more demanding. Reasoning is a perspective on a matter. Problem posing, which is one of my favorite ones, is solving problems. You're posing a problem to the children. And you can do that at any time and in all places in a storybook, on any page of a storybook. If a teacher becomes really good at asking problem posing questions, she could do it anywhere and at any time. And then proof is just validating the reasoning aspect of your book or of the question that the teacher is asking. So here are some examples. How do you think the strangers felt on this page? That's bringing the attention to the strangers on the page. Why did the chair break when Goldilocks sat on it? Right? Prediction. What would happen uh, if the police saw Goldilocks in the house? Comparison. What's the difference between Papa Bear's porridge and Baby Bear's porridge? And then reasoning. Why do you think Goldilocks needed to go through the bear's things? Right? Like why was she so curious? Like, why? And then problem posing, what can the community do to help keep the neighborhood safe? And so I'm going to open it up for all of you to ask questions about this chart that you can use for your own practices or for your teachers, if your directors, or for your coaches. It's up for you. No questions? Let's see.
I don't have any questions, but this goes along like with class,
Oh, yeah.
right? I mean, this is
Absolutely.
what class wants to see and what they type their 45 minutes of silence and watching you every single second, the 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off thing or whatever. And
Yes.
well, it's nice how you laid it out. I mean, they also give you you can get an instruction book and you can get all these people to come in and coach you, but we use all these types of questions in not just in story time, but in like all types of critical thinking activities and even out on the playground, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You should record those experiences, just like as I was saying, and it doesn't take too long to transcribe the questions that the teachers ask. And so, for example, in front of us, I have a little practice sheet, and there's 5 questions there. So we're gonna code them together. But I've used this for class for 15 years. And the teachers that have been trained in this, they get higher scores because they're able to they are able to transform their questioning approach, especially here, let me annotate one more time, especially questioning approach here and questioning style, these two. Because if you know how to ask really good reasoning and problem posing questions here and child-centered questions here, and you do it if someone's observing you with class, because I'm a trainer for class for infants, toddlers, and preschool. If you're able to do this while children at mealtime, at outdoor time, not outdoor time, so that's for the little ones. Block play, while drawing, while doing anything in the classroom, if you're able to ask those higher order thinking questions and child-centered questions, you get high scores.
Yeah,
And just
and even without class, I mean, it's good to use it all the time, but being recorded, when you're recorded, I was recorded for Calm Classroom for a video that was shown like for different PDs and stuff, and also for Second Step. It's amazing how much you can even learn about yourself just being recorded in general. Like you don't realize how you're asking questions or what you're saying or what you're not saying. You think you're saying, but you're not saying. You know,
so
you're
true.
just yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. That's great. Yeah, if you can lose the fear of being recorded, because it really isn't about finding the wrong parts. It's about finding potential learning opportunities, for you and for the children. So if you have a strength-based approach to recording and having conversations, and you have the right coach or the right director that can facilitate those conversations, I mean, we grow exponentially when we have that type of climate and culture. So I'm glad to hear that you're able to do that, and I would definitely recommend that for anybody to do that, because that's how we can all learn and develop quickly. Okay, let me clear this out. Okay, I'm still annotating. Okay, so let's do this. Let's work on this together. Okay. The first question says, what did the character tell his grandmother? Actually, let me 1 second. This is for another one here. Oh, this one's for Jamal. Okay, so let's say, what did the character tell? Let me change it here. Mama Bear. So let's talk about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? So what did the baby bear tell the mama bear? Can anybody answer that one?
Are we answering like what he told her or which category it will go in?
No, what he told her.
Oh, okay. I don't remember.
Somebody ate my porridge.
There it is. Yep. Absolutely. So somebody ate my porridge, right? Porridge.
And another kid said, no, he said, who sat in my chair?
That's right. Let's do that one next. What did the next do to the chair? Okay, so the first one is, what did the bear what did the baby bear character tell his mama bear, right? And so that question, would that be a teacher directed question, a teacher guided question, or a child centered question?
Teacher guided?
Teacher.
No? Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
I mean,
Oh, yeah, why do you think it's teacher guided?
well, I guess maybe they could say anything they want, so child centered.
Okay, anybody else?
I don't know.
Well, that's why this is gonna make us think, right? That's what's cool about this process.
I was gonna say it was more teacher directed. Their child's just recalling
Okay.
things from the story.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, so for this one, it is teacher directed, so we put TD there. And however, if we were to say, we were to change this to how do you think baby bear felt when he saw the porridge gone, right? I can't see over here. I won't let you type anymore. Oh, there we Okay, so that one's a little bit more open-ended, and it's not in the book. So this question would be a child-centered question. So I would put CC there. Actually, I can make this number 2. Okay, so the first one is TD. And then if you look at the questioning content, is the first question about friendship, emotions, problem solving, motivation, self-efficacy, or faith and hope? What did the baby bear character tell his mama bear?
Um, well, in the story, he had emotion. He was like upset about things that were happening,
Oh yeah,
but he also want his parents to solve the problem.
definitely he had emotions, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely, you got it. So the emotions would be, so you could put E, or you could just put the whole things here. So that's emotions. Yeah, because how do you think the baby bear felt, right? So the minute we say bear feeling, it's a question about emotions. So that's good. And then here, is it a closed-ended question or open-ended question? Yeah, a 50-50 chance here. Says, what did the baby bear character tell his mama bear? Remember someone said, somebody ate my porridge, right? Or it could be a different version. That means that this would be closed-ended because the book gives us the answer, so it's a recall. We're just remembering. And then here, of all the opportunities, we know that it's a recall question because the book tells us how the bear, what the bear said. Now, the second one, how do you think baby bear felt when he saw the porridge gone? And so when we look at the questioning approach, is it a teacher-directed, teacher-guided, or child-centered question?
It's
What would you say?
child-centered because it's asking for their input and how, like, maybe
Perfect.
empathy, putting themselves in baby bear's place, how would they feel?
Yeah, perfect, perfect. You got it. And then this one's emotions. This is going to be open. And then how do you think the baby bear felt? It's not a prediction, it's not comparison, right? So in order for them to answer how they're feeling, they have to reason it out. So there you go. And so basically, let's say that I'm not going to do the rest, but let's just say that we keep coding these questions. Let's see if I could do this a little bit quicker. I like to do this live because it just helps us to see how that process works. Okay, and so let's say that we code the first 5 questions of our read aloud, and it looks like this. So what are the patterns that you see happening now? What do you see about the inquiry patterns that we're providing the children that we're reading to? What can you tell us about this? And it's a makeup, right? But what can you tell us about the teacher's questioning approach when you look at these 5, how we coded these 5 questions?
Very teacher-directed and only recall.
Yes, awesome.
Very closed-ended.
Got it. Anything else?
All about emotion.
All about emotion. Absolutely. Which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad
Well, nowadays it's all about social emotional stuff.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe this day we're focusing on emotions, right? And then another day we focus on another aspect of it. And what about the questioning style? And remember, this part here shows us lower level versus higher level thinking.
It's lower level because it's just recall.
Yeah, it's lower level. And so what happens many times is this is actually not bad when it's in the beginning of a read aloud. Because closed-ended questions are a good setup. It's like a nice brain warm-up sometimes. You know how sometimes we exercise, we have to warm up, especially well, at our age, we have to warm up, right? So that our joints and everything's nice and warm. You don't just start running or lifting or doing some Zumba or something like that. We have to warm up, right? And it's the same thing when children and even adults are thinking. Closed-ended questions, recall questions are really nice as a warm-up, just to warm up and to build up some background knowledge. Let me think about the book that I read last week. I remember these things, these things. Okay, so now I'm ready. It's almost like a foundational thing. The problem is we can't stay there. We can't stay there the whole time. And so what expert teachers do, for one, they have a framework in their mind, whether it's like this or another way, where they're able to ask teacher directed, teacher guided, and child centered questions at will, based off of the child that they have in front of them. Sometimes with one child, you can start with child centered questions. If they can't answer it, you reverse, you go teacher guided questions because you're scaffolding. If that doesn't work, then you go back, you ask a teacher directed question, which is more simpler. And then you try to move forward. If they can move forward, you can move forward. So it's like you're making a painting in their minds, right? Like you're painting something beautiful. It's the same thing when you're asking children questions. You want them to think critically about something, but if they can, okay, reverse, teacher guided and scaffold it. And if you can't, reverse, ask a teacher directed question. And so it's an art form of just going back and forth based off of each child. Because, for example, I love the water table, the water tables in the classroom. And when I have 4 children in the class, at the water table, each one is studying water differently, and each one has different capacities. And so a teacher should be able to engage each child individually based off of where they're at. And just knowing your approach helps in how to individualize for each child. Yeah, and then the questioning style is also my favorite because we really want children to reason and problem solve. And so teachers with practice can get really good at asking some higher order thinking questions. And it doesn't mean that all the questions have to be reasoning questions or problem posing questions, but there should be enough to make children think. And what I love about this approach that I've seen, go back to the PowerPoint. So something that happened with a lot of the teachers that I worked with over the years is when they were reading in whole group during circle time, there were always like 2 or 3 kids that would always raise their hands like, me, I want to answer the question, right? And they would always answer the question. But as the teachers incorporated this approach over time, the children were actually fighting to answer questions, fighting to think critically. And so instead of just having those 2 or 3 kids that kept answering the questions during a read aloud, it was like almost all 20 of them. And they just loved, it was like a challenge for them to be able to engage the children, the teacher and the others, in the questions that the teacher was asking. It's really cool. So I'm gonna pause here. I did a lot of talking. I see there's some, oh, there we go, the chat. Oh, thank you for putting that on. Yes, Alma, you should have received the handouts. If not, we'll send them to you as well. But all of these handouts are in there. So I'm going to open this up for you all just to give me some feedback on the resilience-based questioning patterns chart. And I've done this with resilience-based. Here, let me annotate one more time. It's a cool feature here. So this part here can change. So if you want to focus on math inquiry, just put math-based questioning pattern chart, and you change the factors here to math standards like algebra and number sense.
Alan, would you be able to give a question that would make the questioning content like something else, like friendship and
Sure.
the, like not the ones that we just did, because those are the ones I think we all know. Like that's the kind we probably, a lot of us, at least I know I do, retail or emotion or
Mhm.
like, yeah, could we have a question? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Okay.
So what kind of question you want? A friendship question?
Friendship or, faith and hope or whatever it is that not problem solving, not emotions.
Okay, so let's try friendship, right? So if I
Okay.
were to say to you, do you have any friends, right? What would you say? Yes, right? Let's pretend you're a kid.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, and then I would say, and I'm typing this up just so that everyone can see. So what's the difference between you and your best friend? What would you say?
Well,
Thank
if
you.
you're 3, you'll be something like, I have brown hair or something, and she
Okay.
has yellow hair.
Yes. Absolutely. Anything else you can think of?
My name is Simcha and her name's Michelle.
Oh, got it. Got it.
I like art. I like drawing and she likes kickball.
Ah, great. That's awesome. So then we could say, since you like art, how do you think we can motivate your friend to like art as well?
Give her candy or stickers.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's problem solving. It could be that as simple as that, but it's still problem solving, right? So that one.
A
Thank you.
reward.
Absolutely.
Or
And
buy new paint.
yeah. And then if I say,
Or use pom-poms.
yeah, absolutely. We can just keep going. I could say, great. What else? What else can we do? And then just keep going. And then we could
What
say
about feelings?
feelings. Okay. So we can say, how do you think your friend would feel if you joined her in a what was it that your friend liked? Kickball, right?
I said kickball, yeah.
Okay, in a kickball game.
I'm not playing kickball.
No, but we're saying
That's
how
my
do you-
answer.
yeah.
But,
Well, let's
oh, she'd be happy.
right, there you go. Because I know you don't play kickball, but how do you think your friend would feel? So that's I'm
My
almost
friend would be happy, but I'm scared.
okay. And then see how this opened up that
Yeah,
conversation.
this is a good example. Thank you. Yes, I got it. I understand.
And it's forever. Like it's just endless types of questions. But if you notice, you can come up with them at will. So
That was a great example. Thank you for doing that.
thank you for participating. And the point there, everyone, is you can do that. It's forever, and it's at will, and if today I'm doing resilience-based learning, well, guess what? I'm using these 7 factors in all my inquiry, whether it's during mealtime, we can have a conversation about friendships, emotions, all of these during mealtime. We could have it during dramatic play area. We can do this at the water table. We could anywhere you can get children to be motivated, ask them about motivation, to cook or role play at the housekeeping area, to figure out how to get the boats to move forward, the water table, or ideas to get the characters in the book to solve problems for them, to help them solve problems and so forth. So other questions about this process? Because I'm telling you that it's fun, and it just builds teachers' inquiry skills exponentially. I think you can learn from just practicing yourself. You can definitely learn from videotaping yourself and others, and just if you can get together with a group of teachers and just think critically about it, oh my goodness, it's fabulous. And eventually what happens is you will have a resilience-based culture, either in your classroom or even in your school. If it's in the school, that means, you might have 2, 3, 4 or more teachers in a school. And if they all come with these inquiry-based approaches and styles and content, and they're able to ask questions like this based off of the 7 factors, or like this based off of the 5 math standards, or like this based off of the science standards or SEL standards, right? Oh, it's powerful. And I think when at least when I was younger, and now too, right? But a lot of I think the field moved towards curriculums that were pre-done for us, which is it's a benefit too, right? It's a really good resource. But what happens when we just follow pre-described curriculum, we lose our creativity as teachers. We lose our creativity to create good content and good questions and build vocabulary because it's already done for us. It's almost like when I tell teachers in the dramatic play area, don't buy those castles that are pre-made for children in toy stores. They're cute, they're beautiful, but have them build it, right? Have them build it with blocks or creative materials. And now the cognitive activity of having that structure came from the children, not from somebody from some manufacturing company somewhere who made that for the children. It's the same thing here. It's good to have a pre-described curriculum and content, but if you can do it yourself, it just makes us intelligent, smart, creative, makes us think critically about our work. And so this is a freebie, it's a free tool you could use on your own and for others to help build those inquiry skills. Okay, I'd like to, maybe we can share some comments or ideas from others. You guys are a little bit quiet today. I think it's the weather. It's so nice outside.
Another way that we extend the books over time, over the weeks, we have come up with different activities to go along with the book. So it makes
Mhm.
it more of a connection and gets
Yes,
them talking a little bit more about it.
excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Those extension activities. I know some teachers like to create dramatic play areas that connect to a storybook, which is pretty cool sometimes. That's pretty awesome. Or you can use the felt boards as well. What about others? Comments, questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is share one of my storybooks. Actually, I do want to share something with you all. Let me see if I can pull it up. Because I have a book that was just published last week. It's kind of cool. Do that real quick here. So we just published this book last week. It's called Trauma Responsive Literacy. This is pretty cool because I wrote this with some of my colleagues at Roosevelt University, where I teach as well. And it's from pre-K through high school, which is pretty cool. So some of these tools that I'm sharing with you and processes are there, and it starts at preschool. And so there's these literacy lessons, lesson planners that are available for teachers. So the first half of the book is about trauma and literacy. And the second part is all lesson planners for teachers to use in the classroom. That's just something I wanted to share with you guys. I'm pretty excited about it. Okay. And then I want to share one of the storybooks that I wrote for children. I have to change this or it won't work. Give me 1 second, please. There it is. All right. So this one is called Ian Learns to Be Resilient. And so for this one, I would love a lot of you to participate on, since we're focused on resilience-based learnings, so those 7 factors of resilience, if you can come up with 3 questions that you could ask children, if it were you reading this book to them. Got it? And this book is a series of 4 storybooks that I wrote a few years ago, where all the characters are in the same classroom, and they're all based off of real, true stories. And also, I went out. I do photography as a hobby, so a lot of these illustrations are actual places in Chicago that children experience on their way to school in the morning and from home in the afternoon. So here we go. So remember, 3 questions you would ask children if you read this book.
Ian Learns to Be Resilient by Alan Rosales, illustrated by Sergio Drummond. Ian woke up feeling nervous and excited at the same time. Today, he would attend school for the very first time, and he didn't know what to expect. He thought, I hope I can make many friends so we can play together. But what if they don't like me? Ian got dressed, ate his favorite breakfast, and rode to school with a sense of wonder. As Ian's mother dropped him off at school, she told him, I love you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day playing with all your new friends. And remember, you are beautiful the way you are. Ian's heart brightened with love. He hugged his mom very tightly and said, I love you, Mommy. When Ian entered the classroom, he was astonished at all the children playing around the room. I'm going to all the areas and ask if I can play with them and if they want to be my friend. This is going to be the best day ever, he thought. He went to the dramatic play area and saw Jenny and Amaya taking care of baby dolls. Hi, can I play with you? Ian stated. Jenny and Amaya looked at each other and shook their heads. No, you're different than us, so you have to play somewhere else, Jenny said. Go play in the block area, Amaya stated. Ian's heart became saddened, and he walked away. Ian went to block area and saw Aiden and Alicia building houses. Hi, can I play with you? Aiden shook his head and said, No, Ian, you're different than us, so you have to play somewhere else. Alicia added, Go play at the water table. Ian's face fell with disappointment, and he walked away. He went to the water table area and saw two children playing with the water toys. Hi, can I play with you? He asked. Ethan and Jamal looked at each other and shook their heads. No, Ian, you're different than us, so you have to play somewhere else, Jamal said. Go to another area. This area is closed, Ethan stated. Ian became frustrated and he walked away. Ian went to the library area where he picked up a book, sat on the beanbag chair, and began to mumble. I knew I wouldn't make any friends. I should have stayed home instead of coming to this awful place. His teacher, Mrs. Cruz, noticed that Ian was by himself, crying. She sat next to him and asked him what was wrong. No one likes me because I'm different than them. I went to the dramatic play area, then the block area, and then the water table area, and they didn't want to play with me. Mrs. Cruz saw Ian's distress. Being turned away by our friends because of the way we are is not fair. That would make me feel sad too, she said. Being different is what makes us unique, and I believe that we should celebrate our differences, Mrs. Cruz said. Sometimes, however, we have to learn to become resilient. That means that we have to learn to communicate our emotions nicely and find solutions to the things that bother us. He thought to himself, resilient means to communicate my emotions nicely and find solutions to the things that bother me. Ian lifted his chest up with courage and told Mrs. Cruz, I'm going to solve my problems. Ian rushed to the art area to grab some paper and markers. He began to write and draw. He thought as he wrote, idea number 1, I can write the children a letter telling them how sad they made me feel by not letting me play with them. He grabbed a second piece of paper and thought, idea number 2, I can call their parents and tell them how sad they made me feel. He grabbed a third piece of paper and thought, idea number 3, I can ask Mrs. Cruz to have a group meeting so we can talk about the unfair treatment I received today. Ian thought intently about the 3 solutions to his problems. If I send a letter to my classmates, they might get angry, he thought. If I call their parents, wait a second. I can't call their parents. I don't even have a phone. If we have a group meeting, we can talk about our feelings and maybe figure out some solutions. I think I will go with solution number 3, he said excitedly. Ian rushed to show Mrs. Cruz what solution he had created. Mrs. Cruz, can you call a class meeting? I want to tell you, my classmates, that it doesn't matter who you are or what you look like. We can all play together and have fun. That's an excellent idea, said Mrs. Cruz. She gathered the children. It has come to my attention that some children think that they shouldn't play with others who are different than they are. Let's think about that a little. She called on Jenny and Amaya. What makes you different when you play in the dramatic play area? I like to take care of the baby, Jenny said. Me too, replied Amaya. Mrs. Cruz gave Ian a quick wink and asked, how about you? I like to cook food in the dramatic play area. Maybe I can cook food for Jenny and Amaya's babies. Jenny and Amaya looked at each other and nodded. Jenny said, yes, the babies need food to eat, so Ian can help us feed the babies. Ian's heart began to light up with joy. Mrs. Cruz called on Aiden and Alicia. What makes you different when you play in the block area? I like to play with the cars, Aiden said. And I like to build the houses for the people, Alicia replied. Mrs. Cruz gave Ian a quick wink and asked, how about you, Ian? I like to build castles with bridges and doors and bedrooms. Maybe I can help build a castle for the toy cars, people, and animals. Aiden and Alicia looked at each other and nodded. Yes, we could use some building a tall castle, Alicia said. Ian's heart glowed with joy. Mrs. Cruz called on Ethan and Jamal. What makes you different when you play at the water table area? I like to fill the cups to the top, Ethan said. I like to pour water down the tubes, Jamal added. Enthusiastically, Ian replied, and I like to fill the containers and see the toys sink or float. Ethan and Jamal looked at each other and nodded. Yes, that sounds like fun, Ethan said. We want to see things sink and float too, Jamal stated. Ian's heart became overjoyed. Hearing all these great ideas and comments from his new friends brightened Ian's heart. His face lit up with joy. I have one more thing to say, Ian said. I think it doesn't matter who you are or what you look like. We are all special. Our differences make us unique. The whole group smiled and nodded at the same time. Are we ready to play together? Asked Mrs. Cruz. Ian heard his classmates respond, yes! Come play with us, Ian! Come play with us! All the children wanted Ian to play with them. He told them, I will play with all of you, and we will have lots of fun. Mrs. Cruz called Ian to the side and said, Ian, I'm so proud of you. You showed great resilience today. You were able to communicate your emotions nicely and learn to find solutions to the things that bother you. Great going. Ian smiled and went to play with his new friends. Later that day, Ian's mother came to pick him up from school. How was your day? I was resilient today, Mommy. I was sad and frustrated, but then when I talked to my classmates, I found some solutions to play with them and be friends. And then I had a great day. That sounds wonderful, son. I would like to hear all about it on our way home. Remember, son, you are beautiful the way you are. Ian's heart brightened with love. He hugged his mom very tightly. I love you, Mommy. She squeezed him tightly and said, I love you more.
All right. So take a few seconds to, I already see people writing some really good questions. To write some of the questions you might ask if this book were to be read in your classrooms. Let's see. Oh, these are nice. So how did you feel the first day? So that's emotions. How did Ian feel on the first day? That's emotions. Great. Let's see. How did you feel the first day? How did the children act towards Ian? How did Ian? Oh, this is really good. Why did the children say that? Yeah, excellent. What was Ian's solution to his problem? Oh, these are great. Thank you so much. Let's see. Angie says, have you ever felt nervous about going to school? Nice. When have you had to be resilient? Ian felt left out. Have friends at school ever made you feel the same? Great questions there. Angel, how did Ian feel on the first day? How did you feel on the first day of school? How did Ian's first day start off? Good, variations. Excellent. What makes a person different, unique? Ooh, that's a good question with a good vocabulary there. Did you feel happy or scared on the first day? Have you ever wanted to play with children and they said no? That's a good one. How did they make you feel? Great. So a lot of feeling questions for sure. Why do you think Ian's friends kept saying he was different? That's a really good one too, Alma. Thank you. Esther says, what can we do to find solutions to the problems? I like that one. That's a problem posing question. Are we different from each other? Thank you, Erica. How can you get help to solve a problem? Oh, I like that one, Virginia. What are some things you can do if your friends do not want to play with you? I like that one. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Erica. Awesome. Why do you think some friends said that Ian was different than them? Awesome. Those are really good. Excellent questions. Anybody want to unmute and share any comments or feedback? Those are really good questions. I can see already the patterns.
Did you have a hard time in school?
Sorry? Oh,
Did you have a hard time in school? Because like you wrote all these books, or did you know someone who had a hard time in school? Or did like in a class
yeah.
with
Well, I did, and a lot of the children that I've observed over 30 years in early
have had
childhood.
a hard time? Yeah. No, this was a great book. Like, I mean, truthfully, I'm sorry, I never heard this book, but it's really, really good. Like people should have it in the class because it really expresses, I think, that what a lot of kids feel. They come up to you and they say, you know, so-and-so won't play with me. So-and-so won't let me in the black corner. So even, you know, halfway through the year. So
Absolutely.
really good.
So much. Yeah, I think this is different because a lot of us implement SEL, right? Social emotional learning, which is really important. So just keep doing that. But resilience-based learning adds another layer to it because it's not just about emotions, but also about solving problems, about motivation. And in every one of the storybooks that I wrote, the 7 factors are embedded in each one of the books. So teachers can pause. I mean, it's a little bit long, you know, but I've learned over time that children are resilient. Like even they'll stick around with longer stories if it's read to them the right way, if the right questions are there. You can always chunk it into parts.
Yeah, I love how it's the problem solving thing. Because there is so much social emotional learning that goes on, right? That, I mean, every school at least is pushing it. And I think it's very important. But then, okay, now we know what your emotion is, but now what do you do? Right? Like, what do you do with that emotion? What do you do with the thing that's causing the emotion? What I think some of that is missing. So this is excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the root cause. Angel, you have your hands up?
Yes, I just have a couple comments. The first one is I really love the entire series. Just how you incorporated Ian, Jamal, all of the different characters and how they're present in each of the books. So it allows children the opportunity to kind of remember the characters and also kind of see their character development across the books for the
Yes.
series. And I also really like how you're using different vocab, you know, saying resilient and naming different emotions that maybe children don't hear each and every day, and opening that up for them to kind of learn what that means. But also with each of the books, they're all tackling resilience, like resiliency in a different way, just to also portray that, you know, resiliency for me can look a lot different than resiliency for you. And I think that's also just bringing in a conversation and a topic that's not necessarily talked about with children. And sometimes things are looked at so cookie cutter within storybooks, but I think this really kind of broadens that horizon of how they see the world around them, but also how they internalize those experiences as well. So that's all I just wanted to say.
Oh, thank you for that feedback. Yeah, I try to use, real world examples because a lot of children go through this. You know, they go through this process. The first day of school, the other books, there's just the trauma, some of the trauma that they might obtain just walking to school. Like some neighborhoods aren't really nice. You know, there's violence out there. And every neighborhood, every town is different, but children still have direct or indirect trauma, right? And so if we're able to focus on those 7 factors, and you can do that not just with read alouds, but dramatic play area, start using the words resilient and motivation and let's problem solve and friendship and emotions, just using those 7 factors everywhere where it becomes part of your classroom culture is beneficial for the children. And for us, I've actually learned a lot that I could use in my own life just because I've done this work and have worked on it with other colleagues and so forth. Please switch this out, open up the PowerPoint. Go right here. This one. Okay. So that's the read aloud. Move this up. All right. Okay, so reactions, feelings, thoughts. This session for today, we focused a lot on inquiry and how to build our inquiry-based learning with children. Any reactions, feelings, and thoughts about that before we head out?
There's a comment in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. Where'd you go? Yes, okay. Okay, I appreciate that your texts have, sorry, very explicit examples of resilience. It serves as a great exemplar in ways for me to identify resilience in other texts. Wonderful. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, you can do that with any storybook. That's the cool thing about bringing back the art of teaching, you know, is that what I like to do with my teachers for 30 years now is I love to provide approaches, because an approach you can embed it in anything you do in the classroom. And so let's say this inquiry approach that I'm sharing with you, it could be math-based learning, math-based inquiry, resilience-based inquiry, SEL-based inquiry. It's the inquiry approach is the same, the content changes. And so if we can share that with teachers and with others, and hey, this is child-centered and this is how you're thinking. Now start practicing in different parts of the classroom, in your read alouds, all the parts when you're taking a walk outside, talk about the architecture of the buildings around you if you're walking outside, or of nature. I mean, it's endless opportunities, as opposed to me giving you a pre-described lesson and you have to read the questions from that pre-described. I mean, that's okay. I think pre-described curriculums, is my opinion, are good for beginning teachers, and they're good resources for experienced teachers. But the best teaching I've ever seen is expert teachers that have frames of mind already embedded, and they could apply it at will. And so this inquiry approach, a methodology, it takes a little bit of time, but it has the potential to help develop that, the kinds of questions and processes that you're supporting, helping children experience in your classrooms. So let's see, anybody else? Any final thoughts, questions, comments? So what I would love to have you do is try it out. Implement it in the classroom. If you're a teacher, if you're an administrator, share it with your teachers or share it with your colleagues, or even change it around. That's the cool thing about creative approaches. You can do it your own way. It doesn't have to be the way I'm doing it. You can change the wording around. I mean, I'm giving it out for free, so it's not like you have to do it exactly the way I'm doing it. You're free to do whatever you want. Be creative, and then share it with me so I can learn from you too. But if you're an admin, share it with your teachers, see if they can implement it. This inquiry approach works with your own families. It works for your families at school. It works for your own family at home. It works if you're in business. Like, it's an approach. You can apply it anywhere. So it's universal, basically. So it's kind of cool because you can learn it within read alouds, but the processing that happens transfers over to other parts of our lives, which is pretty nice. So the next time we meet, hopefully you have some testimonies of how you used it, or even if you're just thinking about it, I would love to hear from more participants to see where they're at, because that gives me background knowledge of how to better support you for this presentation. And with that, I thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoy your beautiful day out there. And we do have a part 3 that we're going to go through together, and I hope to see you there.